Welcome to this explainer. I am so thrilled you're here today because we're going to tackle one of the most persistent illusions in the entire professional world. It's this idea that if you take a group of highly talented, brilliant individuals and just toss them into a room together, they're automatically going to function as a cohesive, high-performing unit.
Well, spoiler alert.
They rarely do. Real teamwork, it just doesn't happen by accident. It requires intention, strategy, and honestly, a deep understanding of human behavior. So today, we're going to break down the actual science of transforming absolute chaos into brilliant cohesion. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. First, we'll decode group dynamics. Second, we're looking at Tuckman stages of development. Third, the role of leadership. Fourth, building psychological safety. And fifth, sustaining high-performing teams over the long haul.
All right, Section 1, Decoding Group Dynamics, or Understanding the Absolute Core of Teamwork. So before we can even think about building a great team, we have to understand the invisible forces at play. This is literally the critical starting point for any manager or transitionary leader who wants to drive real organizational success. Group dynamics basically refers to the interactions, the behaviors, attitudes, and relationships among the members. It explains how people influence each other and, crucially, how conflicts start. And why does this matter to you? Well, by mastering this, leaders can recognize that everyone has a totally unique communication style and personality. When you understand that, you can strategically assign tasks based on diverse individual strengths. The result? You minimize confusion, improve accountability, and just absolutely skyrocket job satisfaction. Now, there are three core factors constantly shaping these dynamics. First up, diversity. Modern organizations are wonderfully diverse in age, culture, and background, and this sparks incredible innovation. But it does require active management to prevent communication breakdowns. Second is leadership, which directly drives motivation and trust. And third, the organizational environment itself. Because while diversity brings the spark, a supportive company culture and clear policies are what truly sustain employee engagement when market conditions get tough.
Moving right along to Section 2, Tuckman stages of development, which is essentially the team life cycle.
If you've ever felt like your team is going through a total identity crisis, trust me, you are not alone. Every single team evolves chronologically. Bruce Tuckman gave us a really brilliant, widely accepted model to track this. Think of me as your guide, walking you through these 5 steps. Step 1 is forming. Everyone's super polite, meeting for the first time, but highly uncertain about expectations. Then Step 2 hits, storming. This is where work styles clash and people actually compete for influence. Next is Step 3, norming, where trust finally starts to build and shared norms create a real sense of unity. Step 4 is the holy grail, performing. The team is efficient, highly collaborative, and barely needs supervision. And finally, Step 5 is adjourning. The goals are met, the organization reviews lessons learned, celebrates, and then disbands.
But I want to go back to that second phase for a second. Let me ask you directly, how do teams actually survive the storming phase? Because this is the painful reality check. Clashing work styles, disagreements, and competing influences are exactly where so many teams just fracture and fall apart. They get stuck in the storm and never make it to performing. So what's the actual antidote here?
Well, it comes down to cultivating very specific characteristics. To survive that storm, you absolutely need clear communication, meaning exchanging information openly and really practicing active listening. You need trust, which breeds honesty and openness to feedback. You need shared goals so individual efforts align. When you combine those with mutual respect, a diversity of thought, and a whole lot of adaptability, shared accountability takes over. The storm finally settles, and the team unifies. Which leads us nicely into Section 3, the role of leadership, specifically guiding the team through chaos.
A team almost never gets from storming to performing all on its own. A manager's specific approach is the absolute catalyst dictating if a team thrives or crashes during those turbulent times. Think about democratic and transformational leaders. They encourage participation, they inspire innovation, and they are laser-focused on growth. Contrast that with autocratic leaders who make decisions entirely independently. Now, sure, there might be rare moments where rapid solo decision-making is necessary, but the source material is crystal clear. Transformational and democratic leaders are the ones who actually fuel the trust, long-term motivation, and the collaborative spirit you need to hit that high-performing stage.
Let's transition to Section 4, building psychological safety. This right here is the secret ingredient. If a leadership is the vehicle that gets you to the performing stage, psychological safety is the framework that keeps you permanently parked there. It is absolutely essential for modern teamwork.
We define it as an environment where employees feel 100% comfortable expressing opinions, asking questions, admitting mistakes, and proposing ideas, all without any fear of embarrassment or punishment. Think about that for a second. Admitting mistakes without fear. When safety is that high, a mistake isn't some personal liability you have to hide. It's a powerful, openly discussed data point that helps the whole team learn and pivot faster.
And the organizational payoff for creating this safe environment, it's literally massive. Teams with high psychological safety generate way more creativity, stronger collaboration, and they learn significantly faster. Why? Well, because openly sharing knowledge, instead of hoarding it out of insecurity, acts as a massive accelerator for overall business success. Ideas just flow freely, and innovation essentially becomes your default state. All right, let's wrap this up with Section 5, Sustaining High-Performing Teams. These are your strategies for long-term success.
Getting to peak performance is a fantastic milestone, but keeping the team healthy in a modern, complex work environment, that takes highly actionable, everyday strategies. You definitely can't just set it and forget it. When conflict pops up, and it's natural, it will, managers shouldn't avoid it. They need to use mediation and collaborative problem solving. With the huge shift to remote and hybrid work, geographically dispersed teams face real engagement hurdles. The fix there is leveraging digital platforms like Slack, Zoom, or Microsoft Teams to keep daily transparency and virtual connection alive. And to combat poor decision-making, successful teams rely on structured processes, identifying the problem, evaluating data, and ensuring it all aligns with broader organizational goals.
Beyond daily management, you need a solid toolkit for continuous improvement. We're talking establishing clear performance metrics and actively gathering peer feedback so the team actually learns from experience. And, this is huge, celebrate the wins. Whether it's public recognition, certificates, bonuses, or even just genuine gratitude, celebrating milestones keeps morale soaring. Combine that with continuous learning through mentoring and training, and your team is going to stay motivated and incredibly adaptable to whatever business challenge comes next.
I want to leave you with a really provocative thought to end on today. Look at your own daily work environment and ask yourself honestly, is your team truly performing? Operating with high psychological safety, shared goals, and continuous learning? Or are you simply surviving a perpetual storming phase, mistaking polite endurance for actual teamwork? What we've covered today isn't just nice theory, it's the literal blueprint for transforming your group. Take these frameworks, evaluate your team, and start building the cohesion that drives actual success. Thanks so much for joining me in this explainer.